This is Take Two.
The women's soccer team. What do you think about that?
Yeah, it's a really good result for Ireland
Oh
qualifying for the World Cup, and definitely will catapult things forward for both women's soccer in Ireland, but also women's sports. So great to see them to get the result. A super team, super personalities. They have, I suppose, just under a year now to focus on the World Cup, and something I think the fans are really, really looking forward to. And we will definitely see more and more people, getting involved in the football community over the next couple of months and get involved in the hype. So yeah, really excited for it. Delighted for the squad. Like, there's some superstars in there. Personally, can't wait.
Yeah, they were unreal. Edge of my seat.
Yeah.
You were
pretty tense the second half.
Oh, like the final few minutes, the second half was a nightmare.
Yeah. 6 minutes extra time. We were all like counting down like every second.
And Scotland was literally playing in Ireland's like box for the last few. That second half, first half, so many chances. So many chances. The goalie is unreal.
Yeah, for me, she was player of the match.
Player of the match.
I know, obviously, Amber Barrett got the goal, and that she will go down in history for that. There's no question. Sure. But I think every single save that Courtney made was crucial to the team. Like, if anything went in, that could have been game over, And
there were so many.
And there was. And she got to some really, really difficult saves. Yeah, as you said, saved the penalty. So, like, unbelievable effort from her. And I think a lot of people thought that Courtney Brosnan was the player of the match. But yeah, she's really come into her own, I think, in the last while as well, because over the past period of time, they've tried a couple of goalkeepers in that position, and Courtney was really solid. So I think they'd be looking to probably move forward with her, but they have some other strong contenders in the background as well. So exciting few months.
I'm genuine. Like, the one thing I'm really excited about is the fact that I'm gonna buy myself my first like World Cup jersey. Yeah, because Malta doesn't have any like national teams like representing.
Yeah.
Like, we have a national. My brother's on the national team. I have to be careful, or else he'll like slay me. But we're not in any World Cup, so this time I'm like, oh, I get myself a jersey. Yeah. Denise O'Sullivan, unreal. Like, I know that everyone goes over Katie McCabe, but Denise is great as well.
Yeah, there's a lot of people talk about Denise as well. Like, Katie McCabe, she's the captain. She's a huge force to be reckoned with on the Irish squad, also when she's playing with Arsenal. But Denise, people really look at her like she's part of the glue that holds the team together. Such a grafter, like, brilliant work ethic. Another superstar on the pitch. The two of them have been playing as part of the Irish team for so long, know each other so well, and there were photographs taken of the two of them afterwards, and you can see how much it meant to them to share it together. We've a couple of people that have been involved in the squad for quite some time, and then you also have some of the newbies in there too. So they'll just be looking to build on that over the next few months as they work towards the World Cup. A few people hopefully will be back from injury and that type of thing. Like, it was a tough squad to play with, because they were unfortunate to have several injuries. So to get the job done, knowing that isn't their strongest outfit, is really, really good and shows huge potential, I think, as we go forward to the World Cup. But it'll be a tough competition.
So tough. It's Australia, Canada, and who else is in their group?
Oh, I can't remember off the top of my head who the last
Australia, Canada. No, I didn't write it down. Australia, Canada, and then there's someone else. Macedonia, maybe? I could be wrong.
Is Nigeria in there as well, maybe?
Nigeria, maybe. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. He's gonna get us the details now.
Find it, TJ. Australia.
I'm pretty busy the last week. I read it once, so the countries haven't gone into my head.
It's like, we're fine. We're in the World Cup. I don't care. Are you gonna be going over to Australia?
Personally, I would love to. We'll have to see. We definitely hope to have a her sport presence while we're over there.
Yeah.
But it's just a matter of seeing what's possible. It's obviously an expensive trip to make from Ireland, and there'll be lots and lots of excitement around the World Cup. But obviously, her sport has to continue covering other sports and that type of thing as well. And while the media coverage is a huge part of what we do, we also do workshops with schools, clubs, with corporate companies, and we have other aspects of the business that we have to run as well. So we'll see. But like, the other thing to think about is like, while there will be some traveling fans, there'll also be a lot of fans here too. So we've had 3 watch parties for the team so far this year in terms of their.
What was that like?
Yeah, really, really good. It was great to bring everyone together. I think the first one, you know, we saw Tala as a sellout, and there were like fans that wanted to go, and we're looking to go to the game but couldn't get tickets. So we just wanted to bring the fans together. It was great to do that. We did it in the Camden, which is the biggest indoor screen in Europe. So unbelievable to do that, and to see the women playing on the big screen. We then held another watch party when they played Slovakia, and we held that in the bar on Stephen's Green. And we had, you know, both events had over 100 people there. And then we held it in the bar again for the Ireland-Scotland game, which was obviously the playoff match and a really, really critical match. So yeah, look, the two of the games were on Tuesdays, and we've had more than 100 people there every time. So we just want to work on, you know, continuing to build that momentum for that team, but also looking at, say, you know, the Six Nations will be coming up for rugby next year, and seeing what kind of watch parties we can have for the away matches. And then looking at the World Cup, because obviously Australia is such a far journey for people to make, it's very expensive, and seeing what we can do on the ground here, because it's something that our community has really enjoyed.
You are well trained. I'm just letting you do this. I love it. Do you want to just keep organizing these watch parties? Obviously you're approaching Her Sport like it is a media company, yeah? But you're also building a culture with it.
Yeah.
What was, going into it, what was like a massive like shock factor that was like, oh, this thing like took me aback when it came to like women in sport?
In terms of the business perspective,
let's start with the business, and then we'll go down to sport.
You can drill down into that question.
We'll drill down.
Yeah, so look, in terms of what we're doing, I started off from a women's sports perspective, and I was trying to, you know, fill the gap in terms of the media coverage that wasn't happening. And you know, I truly believe that the athletes there deserve the coverage, and also that girls and women deserve the role models. You know, you start to, that was it in a nutshell at the start, and the business starts to evolve, and then, you know, you're talking about like, what is your mission, what is your vision, and you're building out your business plan. And you know, we came up with empowering women in sport very quickly, and that's quite simple. That is absolutely what we're trying to do. And then we get down into using language like we're trying to create a cultural change and a cultural shift. Very easy to write down on paper.
Super.
But then actually to achieve that is a huge task. And cultural shifts are things that happen over an amount of years. And like, you know, I started the website and I started the social media channels in 2018, but the business itself, we took a full-time effort from the start of 2020. So we're just broaching on 3 years full-time at this. But really it's been nearly coming up on 5 years. 5 years. Yeah, it'll be 5 years in March 2023. Crazy. And that's only the beginning. You know, we still have so far to go. So, you know, when we hit the 5 years of, you know, the first time we launched the Her Sport website, like there's another 10 years in it to really create that cultural shift and get it to where it needs to be. Like it's quite a long journey. So I suppose that's one side of it. Shocking myself from time to time when I kind of stand back and go, okay, Niamh, like you've taken on a cultural change, like what does that mean? And then I think something else is realizing that while it's empowering women in sport is what we set out to do, and changing things for women in sport, it's a bigger piece of the puzzle when it comes to gender equality, which actually took me, I'd say, 18 months for the penny to drop there, which seems like a bit silly. It's like, why didn't the penny drop sooner? You know, we still have quite a distance to go when it comes to gender equality. Some aspects of life and some aspects of the world are ahead in that, and sport, there's still quite an amount to go. But like when you reflect on 94% of women in executive managerial positions have a background in sport, like,
really,
yeah, huge, a huge statistic.
Oh yeah.
And like over 70% of them attribute being involved in sport to their success in their career. So for me, like, the more and more we talk about that statistic, I'm like, well, if twice as many girls are dropping out of sport as boys by the age of 14, and 50% of women have dropped out of sport by the age of 20, we're starving them of personal development, of professional development in their careers. Like, we need to encourage them to be involved in some capacity. It doesn't have to be at, you know, really competitive level or elite level. It's just being involved to learn about like communication, teamwork, leadership, time management, how to compete in life, you know, how to win and lose, like those types of things. So there are things that I suppose we started to learn about, how the impact of what we're doing while it's huge in engaging girls in sport from like the physical and mental health perspective, while it's, you know, huge in trying to elevate the elite athletes and people that are competing in sport, it really trickles down and falls out into just women and girls in life. So I think that's kind of a cool thing to be working on, and something that we didn't realize actually for a while. We were just like, all right, we're working on women's sport, and you look into it further and you're like, wow, sport really does have such a huge impact on your entire life.
Yeah. And I think it also goes down. So the one thing, so growing up in sport, yeah, it was kind of like, it was tough for me to look at it as a lifeless thing or something that I'm gonna keep doing for the rest of my life, because it was like, oh, where's that gonna take me? What am I gonna do? And I think a lot of, probably one of the main issues maybe for our generation versus the young girls right now is that we probably had a moment in time where it's like, okay, you're either gonna have to study and your education is gonna take you somewhere, or keep doing the thing, and like, if you dare to dream big enough, maybe you could like be on the national team.
Yeah.
But maybe not. What is it like for girls nowadays that they have these role models?
Yeah, I think it'll be a huge change in terms of having these role models. There's still a long way to go in sport in terms of the professional opportunities and the funding opportunities. Like, it is a really difficult thing to make a career out of, and that goes for any athlete. But you know, we're starting to see more support. Talking about the soccer team, you know, last year or within the last 12 months, both the women and the men will be paid the same when they represent Ireland. When they play for their national team, they'll both receive €2,000. Previously, it had been €500 for the women and €2,500 for the men.
Yeah.
So leveling that up is great. You know, we're seeing, I suppose, increased opportunity at professional level in soccer as well. When it comes to rugby, the professional contracts from the RFU will be released over the next couple of weeks and months. So to have that opportunity for our international players will be great as well. So it will continue to build, and there are two sports that are making a move, and it'll stand out as an opportunity for girls and women. But like, look at some of the other sports. Look at, you know, golf. Look at tennis. Like, there's money to be made there if you're good enough.
Yeah.
And then, you know, there's some other sports, like say Ciara McGeehan runs for New Balance. You know, she's a professional athlete for them, and there are opportunities. So it's about looking up and seeing what the opportunities are. And you know, sometimes you'd be lucky enough to get you know, sponsorship from Sport Ireland, or you might be able to you know, be good enough to get sponsorship deals and on partnerships with a number of brands to support you in your journey. But you know, then on the other hand, I was interviewing Katie O'Brien at the weekend, and you know, she's a world champion in the para single sculls and rowing, and you know, she's not getting funding at the moment. She works with a couple of brands and gets a bit of support. By trade, she's a vet. She stepped back from being a vet. I don't think she's actually spent that much time in veterinary. She knows it'll come around eventually, but like, she's committed to, you know, really trying to qualify for the Paralympic Games, and she's, you know, talking about you know, she wants to be on that podium too, you know. So herself and her doubles partner have both stepped back from full-time work, and they're not receiving funding just yet. So it is a graft. It is tough. You know, some people will catch a break, and some people will have to work harder to try and get that. So you know, some opportunities will come a little bit easier to men than they will to women, but there certainly is a shift. So as young girls are looking up, they'll, you know, maybe see the opportunities for them in their particular sport or in another sport, and hopefully it will continue to change. But yeah, that's talking about life as an athlete. But you know, we're starting to see change when it comes to opportunities in sport as a woman as a whole. Like, there's more opportunities in you know, in coaching now, more effort being put in to train up you know, women in coaching positions, and to make sure that they feel welcome and supported in those roles. You're looking at the opportunities in broadcasting. Like, we have some great female role models there. You know, you're looking at Ivani Quillen, you're looking at Jackie Hurley, Marie Crowe, like to name a few. You know, we're seeing Emer Constantine, Niamh McAvoy come in punditry positions and that type of thing as well. Stephanie Roach has been involved. So it's starting to increase more and more on radio, on television, on YouTube, like wherever people want to consume their content and that. So there are increasing opportunities to be involved in the world of sport. And look, I've been involved in sport since I was 4, and it never struck me as a career to go in. I kind of thought like, oh, if you wanted to be involved in sport, like physio, that was the option that I thought, and that wasn't something I was interested in, and it kind of fell into my lap. But like, how come it never struck me to pursue something in sport? Like I saw, you know, you look at coaching, and you know, the opportunities for professional coaching, like that's tough. It's tough in Ireland. Like if you want to, you know, coach and be paid for it, a lot of times you would be looking at going abroad, depending on what you can kind of organize here. But that's tough too. So I kind of thought, you know, I liked coaching. Like I did a bit when I was a teenager, as I was growing up. I like it, but I didn't think there was very much money in it. And then physio didn't really really appeal to me. So there are more opportunities that we're showcasing, and things will change over the next few years. So whether it's as an athlete or whether it's involved in another role, you know, there's positions that we don't even know what will be coming down the tracks when you're talking about analysis and all this kind of stuff. Like when you really get down into what goes on in some of the teams, like even look at what goes on in Formula One, like the size of the teams are enormous. So increasing opportunity there for people for sure.
What was it like when you first started walking into boardrooms with a bunch of lads and you're like, this is my idea, this is my plan?
Yeah, we meet people a mix, like 100%. Like, you know, depending on the
like, did you have to fight for your cause more than obviously every business person has to fight for their idea?
Yeah, absolutely.
Did you have to fight for the cause a little bit extra?
So what I'd say, I suppose, at the moment is like we really kicked off in January 2020, and bearing in mind that COVID was like 2.5 months later, you know, so a lot of the meetings that we were having is on Zoom. So that's great in the way that, you know, you can connect with people, you know, quickly and easily at home, but tough in the way that it also blocks you from maybe engaging with people on a more personal level and kind of getting to know them a bit more, and like you miss that kind of personal connection. So that was kind of tough, I suppose, and we're getting back out meeting people more now in person, which is great, and you hear their stories and you know, they learn a bit more about us and what we're doing. I suppose a lot of the people that we're meeting, like I would say it's probably pretty gender balanced, but then in terms of like roadblocks or anything, people are really interested in what we're doing. Like I haven't had anybody turn around to me and be like, that's a bad idea or we don't support it. But in terms of, you know, getting business across the line, yeah, sure, that can be tough, but that's tough for any business. You know, we're out there competing with, you know, other proposals, whether it's print media, digital media, you know, other marketing and advertising strategies. And we have to, you know, carve out, you know, why you would work with us and what benefit you would get, like what is your return on investment, and that is simple as you know, sometimes people will see the benefit, and you know, you can talk to them about how you know, women are usually the decision maker when it comes to household purchases, and you know, that say online, like women look for a lot of their information and research on products and decisions online and that type of thing. And like we've a community of 100,000 people, so if you want to connect with women and you want them to spend with you, like it makes sense. But it depends brand to brand, and it depends what they're involved in already. But in terms of the concept and what we're doing and why we're doing it, I haven't had one single person turn around to me and be like, that's a bad idea.
Yeah. The reason why I'm asking is because if we were to take a step back, right? Come 2017, the Irish women's soccer team are basically asking the FAI, listen, treat us like decent human beings. 2018 you start, then it's 2020 when you go full time. Yeah. Do you think it's just like a matter of not right place, right time, because of course you've been working your ass off on this, but it's like you filled that niche quick enough that then businesses are like, okay, we're not going to be trouble, like we're going to start doing something, let's turn to Niamh, let's turn to her sport. They're going to help us. Do you think that was it?
It's something we've definitely considered, and it's something that is discussed, you know. There was a woman, Sharon Hutchinson, she founded sportswomen.ie. I think it was in about 2010, maybe it was more recently than that, and she ran her business for quite some time. And then she gave up doing it really because she wasn't seeing enough return. She really wanted to do it, really passionate about it, still hugely involved in women's sport, and hugely supports us, and has always been there as someone that we can ask advice from as well. But there have been efforts from Sharon and from other people around the world. Like, this is something that is happening globally. It's not just in Ireland.
Exactly.
Technology has advanced, and how people consume content has advanced. If you were to look at doing it in a newspaper or on a magazine, your costs can be very, very expensive, and technology offered us a lot of opportunities. I suppose you have to present the right product. It was a good time. Has it been the only reason that it's worked? No. Like, if we were 2 years earlier, do I think we could have made it work? Like, yeah, I do. I think, we have built the right type of content. We've built the community. Social media channels were there before. If we were a little bit earlier, possibly our Facebook community would be bigger, because more people were on Facebook than were on Instagram. But we would have still had the opportunities when, the wave of Instagram happened, and now we're on a wave of TikTok and like all that kind of thing. We put up content on YouTube. Like, YouTube has been around since then. So it depends on what your offering is, and you have to work at it. You have to find the right partners. There are more brands that are interested in women's sport now. Yes, there are. We're lucky that Sky and Cadbury's are, say, working with the football team, and Energia and Opal are working in rugby, and you have to know the landscape and try and find the brands that are interested in women's sport and supporting women's sport, so we can try and work with them, and then talk to other brands and kind of demonstrate to them the opportunities that are there. So it's not been a bad time. It has helped some of the things that have happened in recent times, but I definitely think it could have worked 2 years earlier for sure. It's just about making it work.
Okay. Why are you so passionate about this?
I grew up in a house thinking that I had the exact same opportunities as my brother, and I was lucky to be involved, I suppose, in sports where I didn't really have any issues being a girl in sport. I grew up racing boys all the time, competing with them all the time. Now, I didn't compete against them in an official capacity. Like, my background's in swimming, so you go to the competitions and I'd race the girls and the boys race the boys, and that's fine. But in training, I was always racing the boys. Like, I wanted to win, no question, and to me, it didn't matter if I was racing boys or girls. You just want to be the fastest, and you go out and you do it. And as you get older and people kind of go through puberty, like the guys that I trained with when I was 11 and 12, like, as soon as they became 14, 15, like, yeah, sometimes they were faster, but you still chase them, and that makes you faster as an athlete. So I think, like, I was maybe a little bit sheltered from it. I wasn't involved in any sports where I had that much trouble myself, and I understand, like, coming from a sport like swimming, like, there's a huge amount of time required and a huge amount of dedication. And I suppose in my house we watched the Olympics, we would watch some, like, world championships on, depending on different sports, like, we would have watched a decent amount of athletics and that type of thing. I don't know why it never really struck me at the time that we didn't see many women's rugby matches or football matches. Like, I used to watch football with my brother. We used to go to Croke Park and watch men's Gaelic football. I remember going maybe once to watch women's Gaelic football. Now, I'll let my parents off the hook on this one. We're not a big GAA family. My brother just happened to play, so we went along more with him than, say, it being a family thing. Like, my parents didn't actively keep us away from the women's teams. It was just more something we went with my brother. But kind of as I got older, becoming more of a sports fan, more of an active sports fan, and following along on social media, like, you have to go digging for the information, and I thought that was unfair. And seeing athletes and knowing the grind that it is and how much effort that goes in, and some of them that aren't getting as much media coverage, and I found that quite disappointing. And my background, I suppose, is in commerce and digital marketing, and I suppose I have an understanding of marketing and of social media, and how have we shaped the world? How have we marketed sport and exercise and health and fitness to girls and women? You're looking at, like, marketing campaigns where women in sport aren't actually represented. You're looking at brands where they're using these really slim model looking people that a lot of people can't relate to. Everybody seems perfect. They're in the gym and they're gorgeous and their hair's done, their makeup's done. Like, that's not real. like that nobody looks like that when they're training, or very, very, very few do. I don't know like how they look like that, but it's not typical. So, you know, from that perspective, I wanted to explore like, how are we marketing to people? Are we excluding them because it's making it seem unachievable and something that people can't relate to? So I wanted to kind of explore that a bit more, and we're seeing a shift in that too, where people are pushing for more real models and real advertising, and people are, I suppose, are working with, you know, influencers and micro influencers that are real people, as opposed to stuff that's airbrushed all the time. And don't get me wrong, it happens on social media as well, but like there was a lot of airbrushing in magazines. Like I watched shows like America's Next Top Model, and like no wonder things like body image issues and eating disorders and everything develop out of that. So I was interested, and I suppose I understood the marketing side of things too, and wanted to challenge it, I suppose. But yeah, I just wanted to see that change, and I would like every girl and woman to have the same opportunity as their male counterparts. And I suppose it wasn't really till I was 21 or 22 where I really ran into difficulty kind of more myself in sport, where I wasn't necessarily treated the same as a man, or I didn't get the same opportunities. Because if you're in a team sport and girls have dropped out of sport along the way, it's very difficult to field a team and pull a team together. And if you're a competitive person, like you want to get out, you want to play, you want to compete, and then you're looking at men's teams and you're like, wow, you've loads of people to play with.
ABC team, yeah.
And then you're trying to string girls teams together, and there's just not enough people. So yeah, I don't know, I just guess I was like really interested in the topic. I thought the elite athletes deserved the recognition, and then I thought that all the rest of us regular humans deserve the opportunity to be involved. And yeah, like selfishly, like I want the opportunity to go out and compete. It's not going to change enough for me, but hopefully for like my 10-year-old cousin, it might change for her, and that she has the opportunities, and everybody thereafter. But there is a huge amount of work to be done, and hopefully we continue to chip away at it over the next few years. But look, the community growing and the feedback that we get from them, like I suppose inspires us every day and drives us on, but also continues to demonstrate to the non-believers or people that are, you know, a little bit on the fence, like it continues to show that there's a want and a need. And yeah, it'll get there over time, but it'll take an amount of time.
You broke down 3 things basically. Let me write them down real quick. So obviously we're going to be talking about promotion, yeah? I think something that's really interesting, probably growing up, again, from let's talk about my experience or my perspective. What I found very confusing growing up being in sport is seeing the people modeling my kit and then being like, why do not... if I play the same sport, why do not I don't have the same body as them?
Yeah, of course.
Especially muscle. And I think growing up for like the 90s kids, muscle on a woman was kind of like frowned upon. And I think right now even the concept of like what is feminine is changing.
Yeah, for sure.
What does like a female athlete's body look like? It goes from Serena Williams' strength to those delicate gymnasts as well.
They're pretty strong too.
oh yeah. No, again, like if you were to look at
there's a huge range. Absolutely.
You've got Simone Biles that's like unreal.
Yeah.
But then there's the other gymnasts that are like sticked in doing same sport, different art. I love gymnastics. Like that's probably like my one thing.
Yeah.
When I look at like Olympics, I'm like, what are the gymnasts?
Yeah, it's really cool.
Oh my God, it's so good. So then there's the concept of like what is a female athlete? What is she supposed to look like? And I think right now it's starting to go down that route of choose your sport. I think a lot of women or young girls used to drop out because it's like, this is too much, this is too serious, this is like, I'm out, versus rugby is not for me, let me try something else.
Yeah, for sure.
Choices. So, and then the other thing you mentioned, sorry, because it was a really good one, I'll remember it afterwards. Let's talk about the female athlete first, because promotion is probably a massive thing. That money makes the world go round.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
A lot of people will criticize the women's game. That's it. So, the female athlete. Why do you think so many young girls drop out of sport at the age of 14? Let's go down.
There's a lot. Yeah, there's a lot in it. there is talk about things being too competitive, that girls want to come down and enjoy the social aspect of it. Every kid is different. Again, like from a personal perspective, like I went out there and I wanted to win. I wanted to compete, and but I did evolve as a competitor as I got older. Like I was training quite an amount as a kid. I was involved in lots of different sports, and I always went out and wanted to win. But some of the, I suppose, you mature as you age as well. So I probably became more of a serious athlete in my 20s. But in that, so you have to retain them to let them evolve. So if they enjoy the social aspect at 12 or 13, they might be really competitive when they're 16 or 17, and they might change their perspective. Or maybe they still want to stay involved from a social side. So I think there's a huge thing about making sport fun. And that goes across the board for everybody. Recently, I was involved in rowing. So the training for us would be on the ergometers on rowing machines, and I'm not really sure if anybody enjoys them.
No, those are actually really fun.
No, they're really not.
No, I love it. It's just like a solid pulse. Oh, come on.
Okay, you're part of the very small minority that enjoys rowing machines. Most other people
really
don't. No.
Is it actually? Do you hate it as well?
Yeah, really bad.
No.
Yeah, if you like, it can be really painful too. So
maybe I've been putting it on the easy.
Then like weights training. So like personally, I enjoy weights. It's not for everybody, but I do get a kick out of weights. And then from a rowing perspective, we'd have our water training as well, which can be enjoyable. Obviously, sometimes unenjoyable, but usually enjoyable. That's the whole.
Is that how it's in the water? Like,
yeah, the water is way more fun than the rowing machine. So once you're like experiencing being out on the water, it's like different from the rowing machine. And
is it like your
maybe
own
it's a comparison? Yeah, you can be in a boat by yourself, or you can be in a rowing boat with other people.
What are you doing?
To 9. I do a bit of both. Yeah, okay. A bit of a mix. So, I can't remember what my point was.
So we were talking about making sport fun. And now, games.
Yeah. So look, in terms of that, like we're going down, we're doing our training. Like it's a really like high commitment sport. Mm-hmm. And you have to ensure that people are, having fun as well. So if it's a matter of making a fun competition, like once a month, making some relays on the rowing machine, or doing some fun races in among your team, as opposed to this like graft and grind where it's always like just only executing the training program. Like obviously you have to execute the training program, but tweak it to make it fun within the team environment, or like arrange something with a neighbor club where like you can do some pacing off each other, or something that would give people a laugh. And like I suppose from like a swimming perspective, like we always used to do mixed relays in our training sessions, which you would mix up the different genders, the different age groups. We used to do swimming relays, but then we also did relays where we try and swim backwards, not back crawl, like swimming front crawl backwards. That might not make sense to people that don't
swimming front crawl
backwards. Yeah,
like that.
Yeah. And then we'd have relays where it would be like a kick relay, or you just use your arms, or like I don't know, some other kind of
wouldn't that thing still be competition though?
It's competition, but it's fun because it's not always like you're not going to go out to an actual swimming gala and do a kick.
Like it's not anxiety.
Yeah, so you're just getting involved, you're trying your best. But we also like there were other, I don't know, kind of funny things that you did. But you're breaking it up and you're making it fun. You're engaging people together, as opposed to like if you just keep doing the training session and then nobody talks to each other and your head is in the water and you just have to be focused and serious all the time.
Okay.
That can be a lot for people. So that's one way of making it fun. But with kids, you can like, and that they're like two sports, I suppose, that I've experienced, but you can make like lots of games with footballs, with like, something like gymnastics or whatever it is. Like there is the potential to make some of these different things fun. Like, and it's, you can get the work done, and you can be developing skills, you can be developing agility, you can be developing strength while doing it in a fun capacity. So
basically
let me take something like stuck in the mud, right?
Yeah.
If you have people running around playing stuck in the mud for a warm-up, and you're dealing with a bunch of 11 and 12-year-olds, right?
Yeah.
Letting them play stuck in the mud, it's a game. They're still running around, they're still turning, they're still developing all these skills that has to be beneficial on a football pitch or on a camogie pitch or playing hockey. But they're looking at it as a game because it's like, oh, I'm playing chasing, like this is so fun. And then you're like unsticking your friend and then everyone's running around again or something like that. Or like, you know, could you play like rounders or something and just mix it up, change it from what your normal training session is. You're still, again, running, getting your heart rate up, you know, developing your skills if you're catching the ball or if you're hitting the ball or whatever it is. So it's just about being open to different ideas and, you know, not always being so intense all the time. And it's really important at that 11, 12, 13, 14-year-old. And it's been proven that girls out there to socialize and have fun together. So definitely it's key there. But I think it's key the whole way up into adult exercise and adult sport for everybody, because if someone's not enjoying being there, that's when they're going to leave. So yeah, I think it has to be fun all the way. So yeah, fun is one perspective. The other thing is like, what are some of the other things? Like we've talked a little bit about body image, and I suppose we can dive into the femininity thing in a minute. But body image is a huge thing, and that's not necessarily just about like your shape. It also comes into like having hair on your body, and like in kind of Western culture, it's become very normal for women to be like hairless, and like it's natural for us to have hair on our bodies. So as girls at like 11, 12, 13, 14 start to develop that hair under their arms, on their legs, whatever, it can be something they're very self-conscious of. But we need to break that barrier down. And for me, it's actually like, if you want to shave or wax your legs, fine. If you don't, like, I actually don't really care. And neither should anybody else. That should be everybody's personal choice. And you know, Gillette marketed razors to women like decades ago and made us think that that's what we should do and that's what was sexy and everything. But like, if you don't want to do it, don't. And I've heard of girls that haven't gone to training sessions because they haven't shaved their legs. Like, how sad is that? That people are too self-conscious about something that is completely natural to miss out on sport. And like, you don't know what the situation is in each individual house. Like, I remember, so I had some friends that were 2 years older than me, and I remember being like 10 or 11. This is really funny. I was like going to like a piano exam. My mom was in the car and I was like pulling out the hairs of my legs and all this kind of thing. And I was like, oh, like, can I shave my leg, or can I get my legs waxed and all this kind of thing? My mom was like, no, Niamh, you can't. I don't know, I was 10 or 11 and she's like, you have no hair in your legs. The hair is blonde. You can't see anything. Like, she's looking at me and she's like, you're mad. But it's because I had friends that were a couple years older than me and they were doing it there. It was normal. It was starting to be discussed in their friend group, so I was, you know, exposed to that from them, and then it becomes something that you're kind of self-conscious about. And I just think we need to like let people be and it not be such a big deal. And there's one side of it. It's just like, when it comes to training, comes to going to the gym, like the fact that people are put off going to the gym because they have hair under their arms, or swimming and all these different things, like, it's a natural thing. So let's just like break it down and make it more normal for women to have hair on their bodies. Like, and if people don't want to shave or don't want to wax or don't remove the hair on their bodies, like, fine. I don't care. You be what you want to be. And especially for the younger girls. So that's one thing. And then periods and menstrual cycle are a whole other thing.
Oh, yeah.
You have a question. So I'll let you ask the question.
I would love to know about that. But I actually remember I had a swimmer friend back in secondary. I was actually saying that like pre-competition, the coach was like roaming around with a razor, like trying to make, was that to make them like
so that like look, swimmers will do that, and male and female swimmers will do that, and that's
part of the sport.
Not like, I suppose, what would we, aerodynamics and hydrodynamics,
basically become a mermaid, like
it's that's like the water running off your body. Okay, that's from that perspective. But that's competition, not training. So if somebody shows up
you're right,
and they have hair on their body training, like, let them be, you know. So if, you know, competition, like, I remember when I was swimming, I remember getting my hair cut and I was like, I'll be so much lighter now. But anyway,
in your bathing cap.
with my hair under my hat. But anyway, like, that's, again, that, like, it's training sessions, letting people come down and feel comfortable to do their training sessions, that perspective. And there was a magazine cover came out, I'd say it's over a year ago now, and it was of a woman who hadn't shaved under her arms, and it came into a WhatsApp group that I'm in, and they were talking about it. They're like, oh, that's gross and whatever. And I was like, nobody's telling you to do it. If she wants to do it, like, it's not gross, it's natural, and, you know, let her do what she wants to do. And she's out there on the front of a magazine, a gorgeous woman, and promoting that and empowering other people that if that's what they do, that they are part of that community, and that it's normal and all that kind of thing. And I was like, girls, like, who are you to judge? Like, nobody has said this is what you have to do, but let people be who they want to be. And it's natural. Again, I know I keep saying it, but like it is. So why have we a culture, and I know it's different all around the world, but like in Ireland and in the UK and a couple other countries, why have we got a culture where men can have hair on their bodies and women can't?
Yeah, we got shamed into it.
Yeah, exactly. So let's just take back the power a little bit and do what we want to do. And again, like, let everybody make their own decisions, but to not be, you know, shocked and horrified if a woman has hair under their arms or on their legs, like, you know, surprise, it grows. So it is what it is. But yeah, look, that's a thing that I'm trying to talk about more with young girls, to not miss training sessions because of something like that. And I think if they make it through their teenage years, by the time someone hits 17, 18, 19, you know, usually people are laughing like, oh, I haven't shaved my legs in 2 weeks. And it's getting them through that period is key first.
That's awkward stage.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you know, for me, like, it's something that I'm very much less worried about now than probably when I was 12, because you know, you are very busy and you have other things to do, and no, you don't always have time to shave your legs, and so be it, just crack on with life. But it's about those teenage years, getting them through it on. And I think that's the same for periods and menstrual cycles. So yeah, in terms of that, you know, they're going through puberty, they're experiencing you know, all these body changes at 11, 12, 13. It can be overwhelming for kids. You're trying to figure out the logistics of managing your period when you're training. So in relation to that, you know, are you using pads, are you using tampons, figuring it all out. If you play a pitch sport, you know, and say the half is 30 minutes and then you have half time, do you have enough time to run off and go to the toilet and change your pad or change your tampon?
So why do you have white
yes
shorts?
Yes or no? Like, yeah, white shorts, huge topic at the moment.
Oh my god.
So like, that's something that comes into people's heads. If you're running around, is the pad moving? Like, how long is the tampon going to last you? Like, all those things are coming into people's minds. And as you've mentioned, if you're in light colored shorts, it can be something you can be worried about leaking. And that's like going from not having to worry about it maybe 8, 9, 10, and then you start to get your period. It's a huge thing for some kids. Going into swimming, like I've talked about it a bit recently, like I was really lucky, and it's only in hindsight now that I appreciate so much, like the fact that my mom just gave me a box of tampons, you know, kind of talked me through it a little bit, said, you know, read that, come back to me if you have any questions, and go and try and put it in. So I got my period, I think it was on a Thursday. There was like a junior training sessions used to happen on Thursdays. I wasn't part of the junior squad anymore. I was supposed to be racing at the weekend on the Saturday, Sunday, and my mom was like, right, let's go down to swim and let's see how this goes. So she literally like gave me the tampons, told me to try it out, had me in the car. It was really funny because the traffic was horrendous. The training session was only 45 minutes long. I arrived for the last 5 minutes. They're like, you're not usually in this training session because you're in the
I need to test the water.
You're in the senior squad. So it's fine. My mom, I think, like I was lucky I had like 3 female coaches. They're like, yeah,
oh,
just
super.
Like, yeah, so like, I mean, I wasn't involved in the conversation. I just hopped in, had a little swim, and hopped back out. I was like, yeah, that's grand.
Oh my
but
God.
In other houses, like the openness around tampons isn't always there. You know, being able to talk to your mom about it isn't always there. You know, there's conversation, like sometimes, you know, a mom or an older sister isn't in the picture. You know, so it can be, it's something that I completely took for granted. And for me, like, I talk to a lot of people who are nervous about swimming on their holidays or whatever, people that don't like using tampons and that kind of thing. So look, tampons aren't for everybody, but we should at least be presenting them as an option for girls. It's kind of since evolved, like we have reusable pads, we have period pants, we have menstrual cups and that kind of thing now. So for me, it's about presenting the options to girls and women, letting them know what the choices are, letting them try out the different things, and encouraging them. With the likes of a tampon, it may not work on the first go. Try it out again. You know, don't just like give up. You know, make sure that you're doing it properly. With a menstrual cup, again, may not work for you on the first go, and again, trial and error. Like, commit to it and give it a little bit of a chance. And I mean, that can open up a whole world for you. But those conversations, like, we need to encourage them. We need to encourage them among athletes, among teams, for girls to be supporting each other, to be looking out for each other, you know, to be able to say, oh, hey, like, I just got my period, you happen to have a tampon or a pad that I can use, and make it completely normal. If you do leak, for no one's jaw to drop, and again, it's just something that happens, and that goes for men and women. Like, everybody has to realize that it's something that's totally normal, and women make up 50% of the population. Like, we're gonna have a period at some stage, so it shouldn't be a taboo topic. It shouldn't be something that we're awkward about. So yeah, in terms of that, we have to empower and encourage girls and women, and we also have to break down the barriers for men. But I think something that I've kind of talked about a little bit recently is a lot of the time we've actually left men out of the conversation when it comes to periods. I have a younger brother and a younger sister. My brother's smack in the middle. I'd say the first time we actually spoke about having periods or that in my head with him was like in the last 18 months. Like he's 25, do you know?
Yeah.
And it's just something that like, and I realized kind of in hindsight as well, like I actually didn't really speak about periods to my sister probably until like 3 years ago. So I was lucky again that my mom like spoke to her and helped her and everything. But as an older sister, I actually didn't really speak to her. So there's 6.5 years between us. So I guess I was doing my thing and she was doing hers. But it should have been a much more open topic in our house. And my brother knew periods existed, knew we had periods, like all that kind of thing. But rather than asking or us chatting to him about it, it only came up recently. And it's, you know, we have a show called the Period Panel. So we talk about periods in my house now a lot because they're like, Niamh, can you please stop talking about the Period Panel? But like honestly, my sister's on the first and second episode of the Period Panel, and that's probably like the first like real time we actually sat down and like that's the first time I found out when she got her first period, and her the same for me.
Yeah.
But we need to break down those conversations for men as well, include them in it. I spoke to a teammate of mine, and he again has only sisters, like 2 or 3 sisters. He had been left out of the conversation in his house as well. Yeah. And he was really curious. Like he asked me and another friend of mine who's a girl, and we chatted. He asked all the questions. He was like really like understanding of it, was like, oh, I feel really sorry for you guys. Like it must be tough. What's it like training? Like was just very genuine about the whole thing. And you know, when it comes to coaching, it can be like a little bit like awkward for coaches sometimes to ask about it. In some sports, coaches are still predominantly male, so they need the support if they're uncomfortable talking about it. Is there an older female athlete, a female coach, a child liaison officer, a female liaison officer? Like you just have to bring people in on the conversation. But again, it's 50% of the population, so it shouldn't be that awkward.
I think it's also about giving them a chance, giving guys a chance to understand. I think the one thing that I really don't like is just like, oh, you're a guy, you don't need to know about it.
You do need
vice
to know.
versa.
You do.
Yeah.
And going back to like male coaches, like they do need to have a bit of an understanding. They need to be able to look out for athletes, to support them, whether it's, you know, ensuring that
I think even training like cramps,
nutrition, like sleep, hydration, like they can all help with menstrual symptoms and that kind of thing. You know, understanding that at certain periods during your cycle that you might be more susceptible to ACL injuries or whatever it is. You know, there's a couple of things to learn about your menstrual cycle. You also can use your menstrual cycle to your advantage if you really dive down into the science. Like there's you know, some periods of time where you might actually be able to benefit from block weeks of training to be pushing for personal bests, and other times that it might be more challenging. Again, that's kind of, you know, there's more and more research coming out of that, and that's kind of a loose guide for people. And if you track your cycle, you'll learn more about yourself. Recently, I think Kelly Harrington mentioned that she's had her period at lots of big competitions, and you know, you get on with it and you can achieve. Like she's a European champion, Olympic champion, like so you certainly can achieve. I spoke to another girl before, Claire Mooney. She is a track athlete, has represented Ireland on a couple of occasions, and she said, you know, I've competed on when I've had my period, and I've done quite well. So you know, people are different, but when it comes to training, whether it's in the gym, social sport, elite sport, whatever it is, compare the first week of your cycle to the first week of your next cycle. Then like, so it's week 1 to week 1, week 2 to week 2, week 3 to week 3, week 4 to week 4, so that you're starting to compare like to like, as opposed to if you compare week 1 to week 2 to week 3 to week 4, the ebbs and flows of your hormones and what your body is able for at different times, like that might demotivate you. Okay. Or, you know, sometimes people talk about if they're you know, trying to lose weight or you know, it's from that perspective. You can add a kilo or 2 or 3 when it comes to different parts of your menstrual cycle, you know, water retention and that type of thing as well. So that can be demotivating for people that might be trying to lose a little bit of weight as well. So it's about understanding that, and again, you know, breaking down the conversation, breaking down the barriers and just talking about it. But it can be used, like I spoke to an English rugby player, and she was saying like our menstrual cycle can be our superpower if it's used right. So it's an indicator as well. an indicator of your health, and something, you know, that we spoke about and said that, you know, men don't actually have that indication of health, that guide of like, if your menstrual cycle is off and if your period is missing, it can be an indication of maybe something's wrong, like maybe you're stressed, maybe you're overtraining, maybe you're not eating enough. And it's something that actually can be a guide that if your period is missing, that's giving you a bit of a warning signal to say, okay, just check that everything's okay, try and, you know, right some of the imbalances, and that you could then avoid injuries down the line. Men don't actually have that. So if you look at it from that perspective, we could actually ensure that we don't get injuries. Like you're looking at things like stress fractures or whatever it might be. So
what factors should, if a female athlete is listening to this, what factors should they be looking out for in terms of like tracking it? Like I feel,
in terms of tracking your cycle?
Yeah, like am I tired, besides like flow and all that kind of stuff? Physically, is it just like tiredness, energy levels?
It's just you need to write down like how you're feeling, like how are you performing, like that type of thing. And inside secret, we're about to launch a Her Sport training diary that we've worked the menstrual cycle into. It,
by the way.
Thank you, we're really excited. We've been working on it for months and it's finally about to go to print.
I'll use that as the thumbnail.
So basically with the diary, we've worked it around, like, you know, we're encouraged. You talk so much about how sleep, hydration, nutrition, stress, and your menstrual cycle can impact everything in terms of your sporting journey, and how these things can all be interlinked. So I track my menstrual cycle on 2 apps. I have, you know, tracked my nutritional intake on another app. I use 3 apps. 2 of them more consistently than, well, I suppose the other one just automatically is like Strava. It automatically uploads to Strava. But like, so that's like 6 apps that I'm so 3 that I'm tracking my I suppose my exercise and fitness output on. 6 apps total.
Okay.
Some of them communicate with each other, some don't. So you're trying to overlay some of the information. You're looking at it, sometimes you're looking at it a day at a time. You're trying to look at the week and the month and trying to put all the information on. It could be like pretty difficult. So what we're trying to do is make it a little bit easier and do it on paper, where basically we'll have the months, your menstrual cycle, you'll track like where your period is, you could track where ovulation is, and then if you look at like your sleep, your hydration, your nutrition, you could track stress. So we have we've left a little bit of space there for people that, you know, I know for me that like hydration is really important. So if I mess up my hydration or my nutrition, that might cause a problem for me. Like I've a kind of consistent injury in my arm, and that might be something that flares up. If I'm not hydrated properly, that could let my arm go. So if you look at where some of the, like, start to track some of the trends, and it'll help you monitor, like, you know, how are you feeling during your training session? Was it because it was a certain time in your cycle, or was it because you weren't hydrated properly? And it'll help you pinpoint how you feel during your menstrual cycle and what to expect of your body, because you're able to track the other things too. So yeah, it's a guide that we're trying to make things easier for people. I find so I've had this injury, I would say, since...
What injury do you have, by the way? So
it's an injury, it's like tightness in my forearm. It goes right up to my shoulder, into my neck. It can go down to my hip.
Okay.
The whole left side of my body. Bit of an
like spasms? Like
no, I get like swelling, and then I can kind of lose kind of control in my hand. So when you're trying to row, that's a bit of a problem, because I can't move my fingers as much. So it goes up and down in terms of how it has affected me, and it's something that I've learned to manage. But if I'm very good and meticulous with food and sleep and hydration, it's something that I can kind of keep at bay. But so I've had it since, I'd say, 2017, right? So more than 5 years. And at different times you're like questioning, like, why is this flaring up? Like, what's wrong? Like, what have I done? What haven't I done to make sure that I'm keeping this injury at bay? So sometimes you're like, oh, maybe I didn't sleep enough, or maybe I didn't hydrate enough, or maybe I didn't fuel enough.
No, you know.
But it's all like maybe. You know, maybe it's my menstrual cycle. But to put all that data together and actually track and identify, it's difficult. So I have to be really good on these things to make sure that it doesn't happen. But that can be tough in life sometimes, you know. So it's just to help people to get the best out of themselves and to work with their menstrual cycle. And also, like, if you like it can be a warning then for me. I could be like, okay, make sure you nail your hydration, your sleep, and your nutrition in this particular week. It might not be the week of your period, it could be a different week altogether. So it's about like learning that. And then also for people getting the most out of their performance and just like preparing, you know, knowing how to get the most out of yourself and being able to forecast trends, I suppose. So it's a nice simple way to do it. You're just doing
like
it on a
2
page.
months that you actually, after 2 months of
you'll need to keep tracking and you'll learn more and more as you continue to go.
When do you see the...
You'll see, it'll take a few months to see the trends, but you know, and it may not all be completely tied to menstrual cycle, but the way we have it set up is so that you can track the trends, you can learn about your body, and you know, get the most out of your training sessions and get the most out of your performance.
Yeah. I think we're all good with periods, right?
Yeah, pretty good with periods. We could talk about that forever, honestly.
No, but like, I think it's super good to hear people talk about it in general.
Yeah, we have several episodes of the period panel all on YouTube, and I just did a live period panel with Active Iron at an event last week. It was called Better Days Period, so that'll be up on our channel soon as well. It was great.
I had a friend that went to that, and they were like, tell me everything.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, no, that's super. I think it's just interesting to learn, because probably I think the narrative was always just like, you get it, you're like a woman, deal with it. And it's like,
we're martyrs.
I am crouching in pain right now. Like
and it's important to have that conversation as well, because everybody's different and everyone's symptoms are different, and like what you have to, the more conversation it is, the easier it will be to identify the abnormalities. Like at the event that I was at, like people were talking about being diagnosed with different issues with their period, and they found out when they were 41 and 55. Like, ridiculous to find out that information.
Because all they ask is, does it come every 28 days? Yeah,
it's that, but also it's not realizing that you're different to other people, and maybe like we just think like, okay, pain and cramps comes with it, and that's fine, and some level of pain and cramps, I suppose, is to be expected. But if it's excruciating, or if you really can't go to work, or
if you're vomiting, like,
if you're having serious trouble with it, like, you need to be able to know that not everybody experiences this, and maybe you are experiencing severe symptoms, and that it might be time to talk to a doctor and explore it a little bit further, rather than kind of plow on and just, you know, take it on the chin, and this is just part of being a woman. Like, sometimes it's not just part of being a woman, it's a further problem, and you know, you need to find these things out. And sometimes, like, if you don't establish some of the issues younger, it could lead to further health difficulties, but also, you know, consider you know, if you want to have children, like that could
it's massive,
be an identifier early on, and if you find out too late, like, you may not be able to have children in the line. So it's just important for us to talk about, you know, periods and menstrual cycle and women's health as much as we can, so that we encourage, you know, women to talk to their doctors, and if there's something that seems slightly off. So again, something that can be a huge indicator, but the more conversation we have, the better.
Yeah. And Chelsea women's team track their periods.
They did, and so it did the US soccer team as well. So it's coming in more and more, but like, we've spoken to so many people and they're like, you know, we haven't spoken about periods at all. So
some people don't want to know about it just because more data could make them more anxious sometimes, or like it's an extra thing to think about. But as long as the option is there, I think that's the good thing.
You can learn a lot from it, and look, data can bring benefit. It can bring stress to the athletes. Like, but if you can work with the coaches maybe to see the data and just kind of help from that perspective, but it can be be a huge help. But enough on periods for now.
On to the next
dive
thing.
Into femininity, I suppose.
No, we could, in fairness. I think we kind of spoke a little bit about that in terms of like what the female athlete looks like, puberty, strength, body hair, menstrual cycles, and probably just overall identity. I think it would be really good to talk about promotion, because a lot of people, when they discuss women's sport, it's not as good as the men's. It's always a comparison. But I think the argument is that, and then it goes down to money. It's so boring. No, there's no season. We're not making any ticket sales. When it actually is reversed, where it's like, is your club promoting it? Are you investing in your women's team? Is it coaching? All that kind of stuff. So in terms of that, let's dive into the snowball effect that promoting your women's team would have, like for on the long run on your team.
Yeah, so if you want to look at it from a professional perspective,
okay,
you know, we're looking at the team, the soccer team taking a stand in 2017. We're looking at them fighting for, you know, a bit more and for to be treated better. We then see sponsors come involved with Sky and Cadbury's, and the support that they're getting and the professionalism that brought into the team, and we're seeing the benefits from it. We just qualified for our first ever major tournament.
So would a big sponsor help a team more than an investment from FAI, for example?
Well, you see, it's all tied up in it together. Do you know what I mean? And look, the FAI have made their move there as well, where they're paying them equally to the men. So, you know, the more financial support that's there, obviously the more resource that you can have, the better people on your team in terms of whether it's like physio, coaching, management, whatever that is. In terms of nutritionists and that, there's a lot that money can bring in terms of that support. In terms of the exposure it gets, you're getting more eyes, you're bringing the fans along, you're building engagement into the sport. Like maybe you can keep people in that over the next few years. We might see more talent come up through the ranks and that type of thing. So it can make a difference on the professional level. Like we've seen that with, like, look at England rugby. Like they were the first rugby team in the Six Nations to go professional, and like they have been incredibly strong since. And now, like, while the Ireland squad is going to have professional contracts now this year, like it's not going to, like, it'll give some amount of benefit, I suppose, this year, but we won't really see the benefit until 2024. It's going to take a while to kick in, and you're chasing the England team now because they've been professional for a while. So you're talking about like the difference in that. Like I spoke to Anna Capeless probably a year ago, and she's talking about getting up, doing your training session, getting your food in, going to work, trying to do a training session at lunch or trying to meal prep at lunch, finishing work, and then coming back and you're doing a training session or getting your food organized. She's like, she said, all the men's team seem to have dogs. They've loads of time to have dogs. She's like, I couldn't dream of having a dog, and neither could any of the other athletes. And then you look at, like, she was talking about Netflix, and she was like, I don't have time to watch Netflix, and like all this, like all these kind of things that we take for granted as, I suppose, non-elite athletes. They are elite, but they weren't professional. They were still working while they were trying to represent their country, and it's just really, really tough. So what the professionalism will do them is it'll bring in time for recovery. It'll allow them to ensure that they're optimizing their nutrition. It'll allow them to rest and recover. It's not necessarily all about getting all those extra sessions in. It's not that. It's the recovery time and planning and all that it'll allow them to do, as well as not being stressed and worried about can they afford to play the sport, because it's expensive to live and to be involved and all that kind of thing.
Essentially, be a better athlete. Like, can you focus on your sport?
Yeah, like they would say, like Greg McWilliams is coaching them at the moment, and he was saying, like, look, they're professional in everything that they do, but it will bring another edge to them, and that's what I suppose financial investment can do on the elite side of things. In terms of, like, where are we coming from? Men traditionally have been involved. So we're looking at men, they're involved in sport, they're involved in the workforce. For women, it's 1973 was the year that the marriage ban came into effect. So it was taken out of the legislation. So before that, if you were a woman and you got married, you weren't allowed to work anymore. So that's not that long ago. It's not 50 years ago that has happened. You're looking at the Ladies Gaelic Football Association was founded in 1974, so we're a little bit behind on that as well. The first time Irish women played an international rugby match was in 1993. Over 100 years after the men played. So that's kind of where we're coming from. Like, it's also recent, also new. Katie Taylor fought to get boxing into the Olympics in 2012. So when you're talking about the fandom and the investment and all that, like, yeah, we are behind. because it's a lot of the other sports have been around
we actually are
for so long, you know? So like if we're 48 years into playing football and having an organisation for Gaelic football for women, where were the men after 48 years? That's actually the comparison. Now, you have to take into consideration the science that has evolved, the technology that has evolved. So yeah, we have the upper hand there if you want to make a direct comparison, but that is where we're coming from. Like, they're coming from it being ingrained in society. And like, when you look at Gaelic football, and you know, there's huge conversation around Gaelic football at the moment, because they're looking at amalgamating the GAA, the LGFA, and the Camogie Association. So at the moment, the GAA accounts for the men's hurling, and it accounts for men's football.
Okay.
And then the LGFA is the Ladies Gaelic Football Association, that looks after ladies Gaelic football. And then the Camogie Association, which is looking after camogie, or essentially women's hurling. So those three organisations, while are all Gaelic games, operate independently.
Was there a reason for that? Historically, that's
how it's been set up. But Gaelic Games has been built on communities, and the GAA has been built on community. You know, it wasn't just the men that fundraised for the men's teams. I spoke to my granny, she's 90, and I was asking her a little bit about it, and she would have grown up in Galway, and she was like, oh no, we were very involved in GAA. Now, they played camogie at school, and they played in their, I don't know, school uniforms and whatever, and she's like, oh, nobody kept count and nobody cared, it was just a bit of exercise and fun and games. So it wasn't competitive. But when it came to Gaelic Games and the men's matches, they were down watching the games, they were washing jerseys, they were, you know, doing all the cooking and baking and all of the, I suppose, before and after is that kind of went on. She said that they used to have fundraisers where they had plays, like where they had shows. The women were involved in that. They were on stage in the shows, they're helping arrange the shows and everything.
Organisation, yeah.
So then it means the entire sport, the GAA, the entire organisation, has been built by men and women. And then you have things where the GAA owns pretty much all the grounds in the country. So the LGFA and the Camogie Association, like all of those teams are essentially renting the grounds to use them. They don't own them. So you'll have instances where people will turn around and be like, oh, but the GAA, the men own this.
Yeah.
But we actually helped them build it. And then you look at Croke Park, like, you know, taxpayers have funded that as well, men and women. So, you know, you have instances like that where over time, and that's easy to compare, I suppose, because the three organisations are different. But over time, women have supported men and men's sports and the development of men's sports. So it's time to give back and to support and to really make a difference for girls and women in sport. You know, if you want to look at the national stadium, like the Aviva Stadium, we call it our national stadium for soccer and for rugby. I haven't seen a women's rugby match there. Yeah. I haven't seen like an international women's soccer match there either.
Yeah.
So is it fair to call it our international stadium? Not really. It's the international men's stadium. And who paid for it? We contributed to paying for it as well. As women, as taxpayers, we contributed to paying for it. Yes. So these are some of the things. Then you're looking at the television. As taxpayers, not necessarily a taxpayer, but as people, as women, we're paying our TV license. We're contributing to some of the organisations that are state funded. But we're not seeing 50% of the sport on television as women's sport. So like these are the questions that really need to be put out there and things that need to be challenged. And for everybody to understand the journey that we're on, where we're coming from and how much impact that has. And you're talking about investment. It's time to make the investments now that we didn't make over the last 40, 50, 60 years. Yeah. The interesting thing about soccer is men and women were playing soccer before the world wars. And then, and then when the men were at the war and off fighting for their countries, that women were playing soccer. It was very entertaining and people were really into it. Then the men came back. They're not very happy the fact that women's soccer is on such a high and they want to be on the high, and they banned women's soccer. So you're wondering, like, what they said was for England, the last time that England won I'm not sure, a major tournament, I don't know whether it was a World Cup or a European Championships. But the last time England won a major tournament, women actually weren't allowed to play football. They were banned from playing football. So, you know, you have to see the bigger picture and just like start trying to rectify, I guess, some of the historical wrongs and build people back up. And, you know, I grew up as a kid believing that I could do anything my brother could do. And there's a couple of funny ones, like, I don't know why, but, you know, going to funerals and seeing like men carrying the coffin. And I was like, well, why can't women do that? Like, why couldn't a woman carry, you know, a family member or a friend or whatever down there? Like, well, I'm strong. Like, why couldn't I do it? Yeah. And that's kind of something. And also like, and like, I know that one's like really random. The other thing is like, this thing of the eldest boy in the house will get the land, which was historically what used to happen as well. So I was like, absolutely not. Like, I'm the oldest in my house. I was like, no way is that happening. As if anybody's getting our house. I was like, I'm the oldest. I came first. And that's how I grew up feeling, that I should be able to do the same things as my brother and as any other boy or any other man. And
you're not lesser than.
No, absolutely not. I was like, I'm as intelligent as he is. I can be, you know, maybe not as physically strong all the time. I mean, I'd give him a good go in some of the sports. I'd certainly try and compete against him. But, you know, it's just about, you know, embracing like what men and women can do and, you know, trying to ensure that they're getting equal opportunities. But it's going further and further now. And I think in terms of things that we're looking at, like we're looking at gender pay gap, we're talking about like something I've been talking about recently is about like maternity leave, paternity leave, parental leave. And like, say for me, like I'm not planning on having kids anytime soon, but, you know, for me and my organization, like I sit at the top as a woman. So if I, you know, was with somebody and decided that we wanted to have a family, like for me, it's a little bit tough to be able to step back from her sport. So for anyone that's worried, I won't be doing it. I might physically have the child. I'll take like, you know, maybe a month off or something. I'll try my best to be back like ASAP. We'll call it a summer holiday or something. But like, a lot, like that's something that for me, like I want to have a partner that is like, yeah, that's fine, I will step forward and I will try and take parental leave. You know, at the moment it's 4 weeks paternity leave that they can get, but I think that, so it's 6 months maternity leave that you're able to take, and I think that should be parental leave. I think that's something that a couple should be able to decide themselves where it goes and who it's best suited to take within that relationship. And you know, I've kind of turned around to people and, you know, you're talking like it's more and more, it's coming up more and more in terms of like there's stay-at-home moms and now stay-at-home dads is much more more normal and that's great. Like there's men that want to do it and it's not necessarily like they've been made stay at home because it's the best financial decision for the family. It's sometimes they're actually the person that's want to stays at home with the kids and that. Yeah. And I think that's just something that's really important to talk about. And like I'm 28 and I'm challenging people, like I'm challenging my peers and kind of saying, well, like, why wouldn't you stay at home? Like, why not? And they're like, oh, I don't know, actually maybe I could, like, and it's just having that conversation. It's like, well, yeah, okay, if you physically have the child, like fine, that's one part of it, but why would you necessarily be the person that stays home for, you know, whether it's another 4 months or 5 months? Like, it doesn't have to be you. And I think there's a lot of people, a lot of businesses that would be open to having the conversation. It's just maybe not been talked about. So somebody needs to go in there and be like, all right, guys, so what's the story?
Niamh said so.
Can we you know, look at changing things around? Like, for a dad, it shouldn't necessarily have to be unpaid leave that they take if they want to stay at home. You know, it should be something like, I think it should just be parental.
No, there should be. I think gender equality goes both ways.
Absolutely.
And it's about elevating both genders, both sexes,
and
rather
people,
than
like some guys love being at home, and it shouldn't be like, oh, you know, the woman is at home and is like cooking and cleaning and all that kind of stuff. And you know, they're saying that they're talking about like the invisible job for women as well, so that while women have now gone back to work and it's much more normal for women to be involved in working, and that we also still have that role of homemaker that in some houses is being shared and in other houses isn't, where there's still an expectation that, you know, the woman will do the cooking, the cleaning, minding the kids,
training them,
you know, managing just general kind of household tasks, which actually goes from you have running the house, going to work, and then say a man might just be going to work. So we need to just like balance that up again. So yeah, like again, this kind of comes back to the whole thing of like just challenging, like we're talking about women in sport, but we want to challenge all aspects of I suppose gender equality, and just trying to make sure that, you know, men and women have the same opportunities. And as you said, it has to come both ways.
For sure. Last but not least, Do It For Her. Love the campaign, by the way.
Thank you.
So good. What do you think, but like, what are you currently doing for younger Niamh?
For younger Niamh? Yeah, so when we launched the Do It For Her campaign, it was like great to watch the video, and like I think, you know, pulling it together, and we finally, you know, we got the messaging right, we got the nice bits of the video and put it all together. And I think like I'm sending it to people, and I'm like, let me know if you cried. Like, that is that's the response I'm expecting.
So I don't cry much. There's a few things. It's dogs, old people doing sports, young kids doing sports.
yeah.
And it's like whenever I see young girls just like killing it, jiu-jitsu, whatever it may be, I'm just like welling up.
Yeah.
Oh my God, yeah, cried.
But they're like determination, their love of sport, like this is what you're getting from these girls. And then you know, they're talking about like why is it different? And one of them, she's really funny, I can't remember exactly what she said, but she's appalled that she would be treated any differently to men. And they want to, like, it's clear that these girls love sport. And, you know, they were a group of 8 to 13-year-old girls. And I'd be really curious to see if they'll be involved, if they make it to 18, if they make it to 25 being involved in sport. They're so determined now.
Yeah.
But I'm not confident that we'll get them all the way.
I think it depends on a lot of things. I think, first of all, it's kind of like living in this day and age, coverage, not just on what's on telly, but also social media, that sort of thing. I think sometimes it also goes down to the parents, because
absolutely.
they are the ones driving their girls there and all that. If, let's say, you're driving your daughter right now to boxing classes and she's like, Katie Taylor, at least this parent knows she has someone to look up to. I'm going to like chime in and then.
Well, we came home with 7 medals from the European Championships there last week, so they certainly have role models.
Oh my God, they have a killer team.
Yeah, unbelievable.
Unreal. Irish boxing. Also, the Katie Taylor match, I watched it at like 4 a.m. Amanda Serrano.
Yeah, so good.
It's horrible.
Does it make you jealous that I got to go to it?
Did you?
Yeah.
What was round 5 and 6 like for you? Because I nearly cried.
Yeah, so it's kind of funny when we're in the media zone, and it's different than being up with the fans. So you're kind of a little bit removed from it because you're a little bit closer, and then people are obviously like following it from a media perspective, and they're working, but then up in the fans, like there's so much like atmosphere and everything, and I was just like watching it, and you're just like so nervous. Like people were turning around, they're like, what did you think? And I was like, oh, I don't know. It was so tight. But it was like some really, really strong rounds from her, and some really, really tough rounds as well. Like Amanda Serrano, very good fighter.
There was one point
great role model,
punching her like double, like Katie was swaying.
Yeah, no, she was. I was like, oh gosh, is she concussed?
Like, this is it.
She pulled it back, and that was the thing. Like everyone said, like if like Serrano will make impact, but if she can, like that Katie would tire out. If Katie could make it all the way, that, you know, Serrano would get tired. And you know, that's what happened really. But
do you think she'll ever do a boxing match over in Croke Park?
People are dying for it. I think Katie would like to do it. It's a matter of like seeing like what the options are. Who could she fight? Like they had talked about Serrano and Katie here again.
Like what I didn't understand was, why was the press tour done in London and not in Dublin? Like,
yeah, I suppose Eddie Hearn is from the UK, like
so
Matchroom Boxing is the UK. I know that there's kind of reservations maybe, and there's been a couple of incidents around boxing in Ireland as well. So I think people are kind of like there was a bit of hesitancy around that as well. But I'd love to see it. A lot of people would love to see Katie in Croke Park, and it'd be unbelievable. So it's just a matter of, you know, of timing. Like you know, she's fighting now. She has every intention of you know, continuing from what we can tell for another while. But it's a matter of like who, like there's obviously only so many fights in a year. Yeah. So it needs to be pretty soon if we're going to do it, because, you know, she will retire at some stage. So hopefully sooner rather than later we see her have the opportunity to fight on home soil as a professional boxer, but also that the fans have the opportunity to go down and see her fight, because she's so adored in this country and so looked up to.
She's an Irish gem.
Yeah.
Everyone says it.
She's unreal. But what were we talking
Anyways,
about?
Parents, and it's like the education and joining in on the sport. Yeah, because I think it's like, I think it's just inspirational probably for parents to be like, my daughter is in good hands if she sticks around with this sport. I had a few people, athletes on and all that, and it was always like the bigger picture is what kept them out of trouble when it came to sports anyways. So in terms of doing it for her, yeah, look, you might have, probably not all of them. I wish that there was, like, if you were to tell me what I could change in women in sports, specifically at teenage ages, more more competition, in the sense of not putting your eggs all in one basket. If you have 10 girls and you have to play 7, ideally you have a team of 18. Just cause injury, pressure, making it more fun, a little bit of internal competition, because who wants to play and all that kind of stuff, attendance, and yeah, because I think injury is another thing that, like, that was it for me. It was like 3 ACL surgeries by 19. It was like
pretty intense,
and doctors had to sit me down and be like, listen, Deb, you either walk or you keep playing. And it's kind of like, what am I going to do? Where is playing going to take me? It's not going to take me that far, unfortunately. Walking will.
Yeah, of course.
That, again, you have to take into consideration physio opportunities.
Yeah.
Like, that's
I think,
not equal to.
Like, you know, you're going to see kids moving around and trying different sports. And, you know, as kids get older, they're going to, you know, probably pick a sport by 16 or 17 that they're more interested in or better at or whatever. So
I have a question for you. Do you think, if you could go back in time, do you think there is like another sport you would have been good at?
I probably would have liked to try rowing younger. Like, I only started rowing at 21 or 22. Right. So yeah, I probably would have liked to try that younger. I really enjoy running as well. Like, I probably would have, like, I swam competitively, but would I have been happy running competitively as well? Yeah, 100%. Would I have been happy rowing? Yeah, I would. So there's lots of sports that I enjoy. Like, I never really competitively played a ball sport. Like, I'd say I was on some of the teams. I wasn't very good, but I only started, like, I played soccer when I was 12, but you develop a lot of those ball handling skills younger. I think it might be easier to pick up the likes of rugby or maybe Gaelic football, if you can kind of work on the kind of with your hands a little bit as well. I think developing your kind of footwork and that ball control, like, is starting it young is good for sure. But yeah, I think I'd have been happy in lots and lots of different sports. And look, I didn't pick easy sports at all. Like, I talked to some, you know, athletes that are competing at high performance and elite level, and they're like, if you do as much or more training than I do, and I'm like, oh yeah, I know, I'm only completing a club level. But
do you have a goal with that though? Or do you just want to?
Yeah, no, it's just yeah. Look, you're competing, and yeah, you're competing to compete on the national championships and try and win national championships and that type of thing. But yeah, for me at the moment, I'm like focused on her sport and focused on the business. I'm taking a step back from rowing this year. I'll probably go running, maybe to have like a few half marathons or a marathon or something like that's like. Yeah, I know, like, I did a marathon during COVID, but it was unofficial, so we're looking for a t-shirt or a medal, you know. Something that proves that we did it.
Yeah, like, if you ever organize any marathon, make sure the medal's on the ad itself, because that would just increase anything. Like, that's it for me. It's just like, is there a medal? Yes, okay.
Yeah. No, that's the thing. We just like
kid.
myself and a couple of friends, like from rowing, like, we I suppose weren't able to row at different times during COVID, and we were training anyway, so we just did our own marathon and just gave us a goal to work towards. So that was great. But yeah, I'd love to do one properly, and I'd love to challenge myself a little bit more. Like, I, you know, had an expectation of where we might, like, what our time might be in and around. We did hit that, but I know that I can go faster, so I'd like to challenge myself that way. But yeah, I suppose, like, going back to the video and you know, do it for her. Like, am I doing it for, like, young Niamh? Like, yeah, a bit, like, but I was very privileged. Like, I was very privileged until 21 or 22, and you know, I had support, I had role models. Like, both my parents were involved in sport, we were encouraged. Again, going back to, I had 3 female coaches in swimming. So I have been very lucky. And it's funny, in my house, like, at the, like, 2 girls and a boy, like myself and my sister are possibly more competitive when it comes to sport, than my brother. Like, he's a big sports fan, but like we absolutely like get stuck in and push it, and he wants to be involved in more of a casual social setting, which we're still building that for women. We're still building that social aspect of like five-a-side or tag rugby and that kind of thing. But like I have a young cousin, like she's 10, like I want her to have those opportunities. I want like girls and women of the future to have those opportunities, and it not be a question. So it's great to talk to those girls and understand, like get a measure of where we are. And we'll be doing it with more girls around the country, and kind of, you know, pull the nation a little bit, and just kind of, you know, see what the other feelings are. But hopefully in a couple of years we'll go back and talk to some more 8 and 13-year-olds and see hopefully that some things have changed. But you know, it's the exposure to sport in their clubs, but it's also exposure to sport in the home. You know, we're you know, ingrained in society as, you know, going to men's matches, watching men's games on TV, idolizing some of these athletes, and it's not necessarily the same for women. So we need to build that into culture more. If you're involved in a soccer team, and you know, there was so many occasions, like my brother went over to watch I don't know, Champions League or Premier League match or something when he was a kid. It was a men's match, and you know, you can expose teams to women's matches as well, and make it normal. Bring the girls over to watch the girls, bring the boys over to watch the girls over to the UK. Like, it's a huge trip, like deadly to go over and do that.
Oh, it's whenever you tune in now, their kids are screaming.
Yeah,
it's
but
mostly
you
little
need
girls.
to bring them. Like, if they don't, like, you need to bring them so that they idolize the women in the same way.
For sure.
And they're saying that it's a really nice environment actually to be at some of the women's games. Like, people think it's much more like family orientated. It's safer. Like, there can be a lot of like fighting going on and that kind of thing when it comes to some men's football games. In terms of if you're looking locally at soccer or at Gaelic games or hockey or whatever it is, bring them down, watch the national team, watch the county team. Like, I went to Croke Park like a good bit as a kid, as a teenager. We would have gone to watch people from the GA community might not love that. I used to go watch Dublin and Kildare. My parents are from Dublin, and I grew up in Kildare, so we used to be able to go watch both. But I didn't actually see that many women's games. Like, I remember maybe going once to watch a women's game. So bring the girls to see that. Like, I went and I was watching men. I didn't really see women play, and there was less people there as well. Like, there's less excitement, so that needs to change. Like, do your bit to bring the kids down, to show them the role models, but also to give the women, you know, the respect that they deserve, and to work on building you know, the like filling Croke Park of, you know, 82,000
motivates the athletes too.
It shows that there's a demand. It you know, offers increased kind of investment and sponsorship opportunities. And it provides these role models to girls and boys. It'll develop respect among both the boys and the girls for female athletes. And if you can bring boys along and they can see these high performing and elite athletes competing, the female athletes competing, they will get that respect from a young age. They won't have any question that you know, women can play sport and girls can play sport, and that kind of thing, because they will have seen it. They'll have seen the skill and the talent, and they'll be like, wow, they're so good. You know. And like, something that I found quite sad recently was I showed my cousin the do it for her video, and she asked me, because like she's only 10, and she was like, oh, is that, you know, to do with the differences between like girls and boys in sport? And we kind of talked about it a little bit, and then she told me that herself and a couple of her friends were playing with this boy on her road, and they were playing football, and I think he said that you know, girls can't play sport. They're all 10, and he's like girls can't play sport. And I was like, oh, all right. And she was like, yeah, you know, we don't play with him anymore, was one of the things that came out of the conversation. But she was like, we've been playing football for 5 years. He's only been playing for 2. And she's looking at it as like, we're you know, just as skilled or more skilled. We've been playing for longer. But like, where does a 10-year-old get that he turns around to a bunch of girls that are his peers and say that to them? Like, where did he come up with the idea that he's any better? And at this stage, his physical development is probably no different to theirs. You know, they haven't really gone through puberty or anything like that, so they can't compete, they can't play. So why does he like think that he has the right to turn around to a bunch of his peers that are girls and be like, I'm better than you just because I'm a boy? or like girls can't play sport. Like he's so wrong. But that has to have come from somewhere.
Yeah.
So who was setting the example? Who was like allowing him to think like that? Like his parents need to have the conversation with him. They need to show him female role models. They need to show him, like, you know, if they're playing Gaelic games, like bring him to watch Meath play, bring him to watch Dublin play. Like they're from Dublin, so that makes sense. But like, you know, go and watch the finals, go watch the semi-finals and see it. And he will then not question that girls can't play sport, because he'll look at these teams as he's a teenage boy and go, geez, I'd be hard playing against them, you know?
Yes.
So it's tough for 10-year-old girls to turn around and explain to maybe a 10-year-old boy like why they can play. But it's sad, but it shows the onus that is on us as adults to make that change and to ensure it's the exposure. Like if he has seen women play and he has, you know, been going to the matches and watched them, there's no way that he would have come out with a comment like that. And that is something that people, like anybody, can do. Go down and watch your local team, support them, you know, get out and watch the county teams, the international teams, and show to boys and to girls, you know, that these athletes are great, that they're amazing, that, you know, they can be like them when they grow up as well. It doesn't have to be just the male athletes, you know. We're still hearing an awful lot about Ronaldo, you know. Can we, you know, talk about like some other athletes, male and female, that are out there? And, you know, we've talked about Katie Taylor today, we've talked about Kelly Harrington. There's some phenomenal female role models in Irish sport at the moment. I think Katie Taylor is one that so many look up to, and gender doesn't come into it anymore because she's just a superstar. And we need to see that happen with more female athletes, and that they're getting the same recognition, the same respect, the same love and support, like from like Irish fans, but further afield as well. But it's getting better. We're talking to more adults so that they can kind of consider the experiences that they've had, the impact that they can have with the kids, with their local communities. And then we're talking to kids to empower the girls to stay involved and to educate the girls and the boys to do their bit, and hopefully we'll create that cultural change that we talk about.
Underrated Irish female athlete.
Underrated. Oh, so many. I think underappreciated, I'll go back to Katie O'Brien. Like she's world champion. It baffles me that she hasn't,
what sport?
She's an Irish para rower.
Okay.
So she's such a grafter. She's so good. Like, I think she deserves it. She deserves more support and more excitement and hype around her. And we're certainly going to work on doing that. You know, over the next couple of months. We've a huge a team of ambassadors, and we're putting huge effort into supporting them and also supporting other female athletes. Underappreciated. I don't know. Like there's so many stars, and you know they all deserve the recognition. Like, you know, Bevan Parsons is a star.
Let's change that. Who do you think will be next up on our radar?
Next up on our radar, you see, it's hard to say like who is, but I think for a general public, like, you know, it is the likes of Bevan Parsons, Amy Lee Murphy-Crowe is unbelievable, Lucy Mulhall, sorry. Who else have we got? Like, it depends, like sport to sport. They're saying like watch out for Ella Malloy in football, playing really well, unfortunately injured at the moment.
There's
boxing,
Amy the box.
Amy Broadhurst, yeah, very good. Great to see her getting the results that she's been working so hard for. A lot in boxing, you know, you're seeing Lisa Andy for O'Rourke are brilliant athletes. You'd have to go through
each and every
all
sport.
The sports. Like,
you're doing great, ladies.
There's so many, like. You know, Natalia Coyle has been a force to be reckoned with when it comes to modern pentathlon. Like, she's been, you know, producing really, really good results there, and she's been such a role model for women in that sport. You know, you're looking across at swimming, like Ellen Keane is such a role model for so many, for you know, for girls and women and for people with disabilities. You know, Nicole Turner, like she's someone I think deserves a little bit more limelight. She's had some phenomenal results. You know, she's medalled at the Paralympic Games. She's had results at other international competitions. She gets some kind of coverage, but she goes under the radar a little bit, and I think she deserves more credit. Roisin Ní she's in para swimming, had an unbelievable Paralympics. Like, it was like her debut. She's so young, so much potential, but Yeah, like I could sit here and talk about like loads. I need to think of the sport. Like there's no like specific person that I or like group of people that I'm like, these are ones to watch across the board. It's just like each sport has their star, and there's so much to be excited about right now. Like we're obviously talking about the soccer team, so much excitement. Boxing, so much excitement. Rowing, like I know I've talked about Katie a bit, but like Margaret Kremen, Aoife Casey, Lydia Heafy in the lightweight rowing at the moment for me is really exciting. Like the lightweight double has been building and building and building every year. You know, they're doing really, really great things at the moment. But the women's heavyweight rowing program as well is really, really strong. Obviously, we came home with an Olympic bronze. We have Sunita Pushpore, who's had 2 world championship titles, 2 European championship titles, and she's now rowing with a girl called Zoe Hyde from Killorglin. They've been teamed up in a double, and they're performing really, really well. So there's a lot of excitement going on in rowing too. Ciara McGeehan has new Irish records. Like there's loads to be excited about. It's just about going looking for it. And if you're interested in particular sports, like go and learn about some of the athletes that are involved in it and find out who are your under 23s, who are the under 18s, like who are the people that you should be keeping an eye on. Like
go on the her
like Rashida Adeleke, like we've been watching her since she was a junior athlete, and was probably one of the first people that we were covering. We were covering Rashida, we were covering Sarah Healy at the time, and the phenomenal results they had as junior athletes, and now we're seeing it all come to fruition and seeing great results as they evolve through their careers. So there's a huge amount going on. Yes, we have a lot of it on Her Sport. Like you'll keep up to date with the news. Like we have, weekly shows where we deliver all the news. We have all of it on our website, and you can get a lot from the social media platforms too. Like we're literally on every social media platform. So yeah, just tune in there and you'll learn about it all. And what we find among our community is that, women are interested in keeping up to date with not just the sport that they play or maybe played as a kid, but like learning about lots of different sports, and everybody understands like where we are and how far we have to go. So like a lot of people are banding together, and like it's such a community that we've created. Like everyone loves supporting each other, loves seeing the great results, national records, like excitement. And also when things go badly, like maybe when there are some mistakes by whether it's national governing bodies or I don't know, world bodies that aren't treating women the way that they should be, everybody is outraged and they want to see a change. So they band together. But for us, we just need to keep building that community, and there's power in numbers. And if we can show that there's a want and a need for supporting women's sport, we'll see more opportunities when it comes to investment opportunities, sponsorship opportunities. Like for us as an organization, the more people we have in our community, the easier it will be for us to find people to partner with us and to help support doing what we're doing. Like going back to it, we're trying to create a cultural shift. So if people are interested in that, they don't have to be the biggest sports fan, but if they're interested in gender equality, like following us on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, like those things like make a difference. We're at the point now where we have just monetized our YouTube channel. So if you're watching our YouTube channel, like you're helping us actually generate a small bit of revenue.
Don't
like
skip ads.
It might be like, 30 cent or like 8 cent or something, but it all adds up.
It adds up, yeah.
And that like allows me to build our team, to fund our team, to do more of what we want to do. So
like employ more women
helps.
in sport too as well. Like it makes a massive difference, because it's just like, okay, I don't want to be an athlete, but I love this. I want to go into broadcasting.
There's opportunities there. So
exactly.
Like, whether it's in broadcasting, whether it is in physio, whether it's as a nutritionist, as a team doctor, whatever, like PTs. The opportunities are growing and growing. So,
sure.
Definitely something that's exciting to watch over the next few years.
You're doing great things, Niamh.
Thank you.
Well done.
Thanks so much.
Thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks a million. No, it was great. A great chat. You're very easy to talk to and very enjoyable.
No, you're super. Like you clearly know what you're saying. I think it's like one of those conversations where I'm like, keep going.
Yeah, I think if we kept going, we could probably be here all night. And I'd say people will probably...
This will not be monetized. Perfect. Thank you so much. And thank you everyone for listening/watching.